Yesterday, Sayadaw mentioned that in order for our behaviors, physically, verbally, and mentally, to be free of fault, to become lovable, we need to have the correct practice. We need to learn this practice by listening to a talk, reading a book, discussing. So our practice depends on studying, and the teacher who teaches the method. This practice should be one that brings result according to how much we practice. To the extent we practice the method, we should get results. Only then will it be satisfactory to practice. Sayadaw mentioned ten sattariza dhammecha pasadayatan. Listening to the Dhamma of the wise, listening intently in order to gain the knowledge sufficient to practice, is connected with and dependent on our respect and faith in the one who taught the method, the teacher, and in the Dhamma, the method itself. If we don't have faith in these, then we won't make effort in the practice. We won't practice. The practice should be one that has the qualities of the Dhamma that Sayadaw mentioned earlier. And the qualities of the teacher are also important, fundamental. So today, Sayadaw is going to discuss the qualities of a good spiritual friend. How can we decide who is a good spiritual friend? A good spiritual friend has 8 causal qualities and 7 resultant qualities, and these will be discussed today. There's a phrase, pugala sapaya, which means suitability of person. When we're learning this high-level practice of meditation, the teacher must be a suitable person. And if that's so, then the practice can be successful. The first quality of a good spiritual friend is piya, which means to be lovable, to be cherished. Such a person doesn't look for their own benefit. They work for the benefit of others. They're not out for themselves. And they help the students with what they need. Now that person has to have good morality. So with good morality, if the person is a lay person, they need to keep the morality of a lay person. If they're a monk, they need to keep the morality that monks keep. So the person has to be clean with regarding the 5 precepts. And in particular, one has to be truthful. One has to be honest and truthful. One's relationships with others have to be clean through having good sila. So if one is going to help others, one must have sila, and having sila brings about the quality of being lovable. There are 2 terms, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence quotient, and intelligence quotient. So with regard to their children or their students, teachers and parents prefer children or students that are well behaved, that have good emotional intelligence quotient. I have to correct what I originally said. Sayadaw originally said that parents and teachers tend to give preference to IQ. So in developed countries, parents and teachers tend to give preference to the intelligence of their children. And they don't think much about their maturity, their emotional maturity. As long as they're smart, that's enough. As long as they do well in school. And most people have probably heard about Daniel Goleman, who's an American yogi. So he studied this situation. So in a place like America, there are, because of this emphasis on intelligence, there are many things that contribute to the kind of downfall of children these days. Parents don't pay much attention to their children's behavior. They don't pay attention to behavior that's good, free of fault. And so children get involved in things like drugs or excessive use of the internet. And this leads them to not be very healthy emotionally. So Daniel Goleman studied this, and he found that the children have difficulty in well-developed countries because of an overemphasis on IQ. So he studied a group of 1,000 people, and he found that of that group, the ones who succeeded due to their high IQ consisted of about 25% of the group. And about 75% of the group succeeded because of their great emotional maturity. So he concluded that this quality of being emotionally intelligent is more important than this traditional IQ. Now, Daniel Goleman is among a group of yogis who practice the Mahasi method when Mahasi Sayadaw came to America, and also there are yogis who have practiced at Mahasi Sasanayeta in addition to practicing in America. And through their practice, they have a strong desire to help others and to become prominent in the community in America. So they've taken, in their own lives, for their children and their students, they've taken on the method of preventing their children from doing bad and teaching them to do what is good, and then have that as the basis for education. So first learn about moral behavior and then develop the regular education. And children who are raised by people like that, who have themselves practiced and gained benefit in the practice, children who are raised in that way have sila, have a good basic morality, and have a strong desire to help others. They're able to control themselves, and they're valuable contributors to their country and community. The second quality of a good spiritual friend is the person must be worthy of respect. So the person should want what is good for others and also have sympathy for others. So they must have metta and karuna. And also, because of that, they also have the ability to be happy when they see others are happy. So such a person who is worthy of respect, because they have knowledge, because they have wisdom, they know what is suitable and what is not suitable when they teach. Whatever they say, it must be suitable, and it also must be beneficial. Such a person will not say something that is suitable if it's not beneficial. And they'll not say something that is beneficial if it's not suitable. Only if something is both suitable and beneficial will that person say something. And because of that, what they teach is effective. So such a one, due to this type of knowledge and practice of what is suitable and both suitable and beneficial, the person is worthy of respect. And that type of respectability, one who possesses that type of respectability, should be chosen as a teacher. The third quality of a good spiritual friend is bhavaniya, which means that that person is the object of other people's metta. So that person makes other people's minds fill with metta. They feel, oh, may this person be well, may they be free of danger, may they be free of anger. That person becomes the object of other people's metta. And this results from the first two qualities. Because the person helps others and they have good personal practice, good sila, because the person is beloved and because they're respectable, worthy of respect, others have metta for them. So it's not good if a teacher is the object of others' anger or becomes enemies, has a lot of enemies. The person who one has as a teacher should be the object of the metta. It should be the object of the metta of many people. The fourth quality of a good spiritual friend is vata. The person can be open in speaking what needs to be said. So, first of all, the person is already fulfilled with the qualities of piya, guru, and bhavaniya. One knows what will be beneficial, and one is able to say it. One is open enough to say what will be beneficial. Now, due to one's own practice, having practiced and benefited and raised up one's life due to the practice, one wants others to gain the benefits too. And one having metta oneself, one wants others to have metta. And when the teacher sees someone going the wrong way, they feel compassion. So seeing what is lacking in a student, the teacher points it out. You need to do this. Try to fix this. Try to fill up this gap. So the teacher is able to say, point out to the student in a way the student can hear what is needed, where they're lacking. And this is done not because they're trying to put the person down. It's done out of being open and straightforward. And this is a quality that's very much needed in the world and among people. So if in a family, for example, the parents don't correct their children, then the children won't know good behaviors. So people have to be brave enough to say what is needed. For a good spiritual friend who has the qualities of being beloved and respectable and therefore the object of people's metta, such a person will have the courage to speak out and point out to the students where they're missing. The fifth quality of a good spiritual friend is vachanakama. And this means that someone can accept criticism from the students. So vachana means words of criticism, and kama means that one can bear. So when others warn the teacher, when the students come and they say, this is, we see this fault, the teacher can accept it. Some teachers are able to give out criticism, but they're not able to hear it from other people. A good teacher needs to be able to hear criticism from others. A good teacher has to point out what's lacking in others. If others then in turn, they see what that person is lacking. When others come and point out those faults, then one needs to listen to what they say. One needs to accept. And this quality is extremely important in human relations, within families, between students and teachers, and between friends. Okay. The sixth quality is Gandharancha Katankata, and that means being able to speak, teach the Dhamma, which is deep. So the Dhamma is profound because it is hard to see. And it is hard to see because it's profound. But a teacher, to the extent that he or she has practiced and learned the Dhamma, that teacher can teach others to that extent. So one must teach only after one has learned. So due to having practiced, one knows about the Four Noble Truths, cause and effect, the 37 factors of enlightenment, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And the teacher can say, starting with Sila, this is how to practice Sila. This is how to practice Vipassana. When we practice Vipassana, we can reach Nibbana. The teacher needs to be able to talk about the Dhamma, which is deep and subtle, based on their own practice. The 7th and last quality of a good spiritual friend is no chatane niyojako. Atana means unsuitable, an unsuitable situation or unsuitable action. So, what's unsuitable? Something is unsuitable if it benefits the teacher, but it causes the student to lose. A teacher should, and it's unsuitable if it brings about a bad result. So a teacher should not ask a student to do something that benefits the teacher, but causes the student to lose. And niyojako means to use someone or to tell them to do something. So the whole phrase means that a good spiritual friend does not tell a student to do something that is unsuitable. So this is a very important quality to have. Some use their students for their own benefit. They think, as long as I get what I want, then that's good. It's a good thing. So this isn't good. And whether it's in a family situation or between students and teachers or between friends, if one person uses another for their own benefit and it encourages or orders them to do something that's not good for them, that person is not a good friend. And on the other hand, if someone refrains from doing this, then they are. And the Buddha, this is something that the Buddha explicitly mentioned. One who has the 7 qualities that have just been mentioned is a true spiritual friend. That person knows, first of all, they know what is to their own benefit, through their practice, through their understanding. And they know what is good for others. They want to do what is good for others and for themselves, both. So, such a person can truly help their students. And if one finds such a person, they should never leave that person's side, because that person is firmly grounded in the practice of doing what is good for the student's welfare. That person is definitely a good spiritual friend, a Kalyanamitta. So even if such a person orders one to leave, one should not. So if a Kalyanamitta, a good spiritual friend, a good friend, has these 7 qualities, whether it's in ordinary relationships or whether with the family or whether with students or friends or in work, a person with these 7 qualities is someone whom one should approach as a friend. Someone should make friends with that person, and especially with regard to the work of one's own liberation, especially in spiritual work. One has to examine whether the person one has approached has these qualities or not. The Buddha was the best of all Kalyanamittas. And if one finds a Kalyanamitta, even if that person throws you out, you should grab the person by the ankles and refuse to leave. So, one time, the Venerable Ananda said to the Buddha, he said that if one has a good spiritual friend, if one has a Kalyanamitta, then the work of the holy life is half done. Of course, the remaining half one has to practice for oneself. And the Buddha replied, "Oh no, Ananda, it's not so. If one who is not free of greed, hatred, and delusion has a Kalyanamitta like me, the work of the holy life is done completely, because through the instruction of the Buddha, one can become an arahant. One can become completely free of any further suffering in samsara." And so the Buddha said, 100% of the work is accomplished by having a good spiritual friend. In this day and age, understanding the qualities of Kalyanamitta is very important. In this day and age, there are many, many meditation teachers, and one needs to understand what qualities a meditation teacher should have. And this subject will be continued tomorrow.